Welcome to Ayumu's BS Seminar. I'm your seminar leader Ayumu, and today we're going to talk about the anticipation of the blue color for Battle Spirit Saga. With October coming, besides the spooky festival to look forward to, Battle Spirit Saga is also going to introduce its final color, blue. Recently, with the unbalance of power levels between cards, many players have been hoping that blue will be able to fix it all. Some are simply interested in the promised mechanic of that mill, which serves as an attraction of the game due to its unique strategy which very few other TCGs also have. As a veteran player from the Japanese side, as well as an active Saga player, in this video I would like to give my predictions for the blue color, and what the decks would do, and also what effects they receive to make sure they could position themselves well as completely new decks in this already insane meta. So starting off from the information of GTS distribution, we know that the blue color will focus on mainly two things, deck mill and utilization of Nessuses, both being the main identities of blue even in the Japanese game. Then the official lore as well as the trailers and various leaks have showcased 4 different types of beings. The first one is the war gods, in which the name is displayed by GTS distribution, giants who live in the realm of water. Then there are also golems, crafted by skilled creators, as well as hydras, monsters who live in the deep sea. Then lastly, there are the beast folks, humanoid beings with beastly features. While the Japanese game is able to give us a hint of what these beings could do, with 15 years of history, it would be too hard to exactly pinpoint the playstyle of each type, especially with how the war gods, golems, and beast folks each used to have a mill deck of its own, so the differentiation of deck types is really just a wild guess. With set 3 probably giving 4 blue X-rares, I suspect that the card distribution will be the same case as the green cards in set 2, in that 3 of the X-rares will be doing their own things, with the last one indirectly supporting one of the other decks. My prediction is that the 3 main X-rares will be between the war gods, golems, and the hydras, with the beast folks being the side X-rare. Leaving the war gods aside for a moment, I want to talk about the golems and hydras first. In the original lore, the golems are artificial beings created for the sake of competitions between their creators. Just like in modern life, scientists build robots and AIs aiming to top as the best designer. Interestingly, they're used in a competition called Crush, in which they somehow compete in crushing the hardest items in existence. The competition has become the keyword Crush in the game, in which when the spirit attacks, it discards a card from the opposing deck for each level it has. I expect the same style to be carried over to Saga. Obviously, since Saga starts out with 50 cards instead of 40, but spirits are still only at maximum level 3, which means each crush effect can only discard at most 3 cards at a time. I believe Saga will provide more effects which add to the amount of cards discarded when done through Crush, and this is probably what the Nessus support will be doing. Moving on to the Hydras. Well, obviously we all know that they have a lot of heads. In the Japanese game, this is reflected by the multiple attacks they can do, often using the keyword assault, which functions as follows. On attack, by exhausting a necessary control, refresh the attacking spirit. The number of times a spirit can refresh differs between each card, just like how the Gale keyword works in Saga. In the Japanese game, the highest number we got was 8 times on a single card. Either way, we've seen results of how well Tokiwa can do with even just 1 extra attack, so I'm looking forward to seeing the pressure an assault deck can give. The deck may also offer effects to refresh Nessuses for more assault targets, as well as more effects to place down Nessuses at a lower cost or even no cost. When set 4 will be introduced, the Hydra may also be the group which receives the double symbol cards for greater impact of multiple attacks. So the last deck to think about is the War Gods. My boldest assumption would be the deck going for 5 Symbol Punch, which had been the win condition for a lot of recent blue decks in the Japanese game, but that would probably be too broken for the stage Saga is currently on. So my next assumption is that it will simply be a deck based on cost destruction effects, which are effects with limitations based on cost, such as destroying an opposing spirit with a cost of 5 or less. The deck may shape similarly to how a Dreadnought deck or Star Dragon deck wants to be, focusing on destroying opposing spirits while gaining value from it, controlling the opposing board until you can go for a clean win. And then you have the Beast Folk X-Rare left, which would most likely be similar to Seon, where it will be related to reviving Nessuses or more general blue effects to assist the other blue decks. And talking about general blue decks, does everyone know what blue is actually good at? Well, beside the milling and Nessus control, blue is the best at hand filtering. In the Japanese game, there was this blue magic card with a lot of variations afterwards called Strong Draw, and the effect is simply draw 3 cards, then discard 2 cards from your hand. It may not sound that strong considering at the end it's just a net gain 0, but it's a minimum 1 cost which allows you to dig through 3 cards of the deck at once, increasing the speed of your search drastically, even more so than red and purple. This card is so useful that it was released back when the blue color was introduced in the Japanese game and still being used as a blue staple up to this year, 15 years later, with at least 28 reprints. Obviously, this kind of effect doesn't only exist on this magic card. Different variants of the effect can also exist on blue spirits and nessuses. And if you're good at math, you will know that this kind of effect wouldn't exactly increase the cards in your hand. So the blue color in general is about setting up the field quickly by filtering out the unnecessary cards for the current game or turn, and actually summoning the spirits you need to win the game, and placing down the nessuses for early control. And then there are all kinds of miscellaneous effects which help blue to exist as a color, with the most important one being hand protection, or else they wouldn't be able to survive against cards with this card from their hand, like Rocket City and Mushrantula. As the color which relies most heavily on nessuses, they will also get spirits which can protect nessuses from being destroyed, as well as effects which can boost cores onto nessuses. And then because blue has a small hand size in nature, sometimes it will be hard for them to catch up to the opponent if their opponent is able to draw a lot of cards. So blue may get restriction effects which can limit the number of cards in the opposing hand, either making them discard if they exceed a certain amount, or one-time effects which make them discard until a certain number of cards is remained in hand. For example, the Japanese game has a classic magic card called Great Thunder, which has a burst effect which says, when the opposing hand has 5 or more cards, the opponent discard them and draw 2. Or, there was the Thousand Beast King Dos Demos, which literally makes each player discard cards from their hand whenever the number increases, and keep the hand size at maximum 3 cards. Blue is also very popular with increasing card costs in the opposing hand, especially for magic cards, or straight up blocking the use of cards from the opposing hand. Additionally, the color may also have effects which restrict opposing effects, most notoriously disallowing summon effects to trigger, as well as effects to lock burst effects. They also have what we call taxes colloquially, in which one would have to send a core to trash to attack or block, usually possessed by blue nessuses, restricting the opponent from attacking or blocking and their use of cores. Additionally, they have effects which limit the number of summons the opponent can do in each turn, or directly disallows spirits of certain cores unable to attack at all. Mule decks specifically may also get effects which literally lock the opposing trash, making the opponent unable to use cards or trigger any effects from their trash. Especially with the Mule deck most likely being a slow burner, you don't want the discarded cards to become resources for the opponent before you can deck them out, you know, like against a purple deck. And last but not least, while I don't think this will come to Saga soon, in the Japanese game, blue also has the ability to skip the opposing steps or turns. If it's about skipping steps, they're usually skipping the main step or attack step, but there are some which give you multiple choices, allowing you to even skip their core step or draw step. And then we also have one of the most powerful bursts in the game, which can directly end the opposing turn when they activate a summon effect. I hope that this video has given you a better image on how blue would become. It's an interesting color with unique mechanics which would definitely shake the meta up, at the same time providing more variety, as well as fueling more hatred I suppose, to the game. Obviously, Saga and the Japanese game are separate with their own individual developments, so for sure some of the predictions I'm giving here will be off the charts. If you want to know more about the color, feel free to comment down below, and if you like this kind of video, be sure to like and subscribe for more. This is Ayumu Seiki, and I'll see you in the next seminar.